kwekwe kulamansi ngamawan minda shinsinishwa kakumakwak shita tegaloyate.
So this is my son, Two Clouds. So look, show the people and tell them what that is.
It's a bear arm. It's supposed to
so
be 5
crazy.
claws, but I took the one off right here.
What you do with the other claw?
Gave it to somebody.
For healing or something?
Nah, just because it's a bear claw.
Peace, everyone. My name is Mumtahana. I am the mother of Muriyd Abdullah Muhammad Williams, who is more popularly now known by his Lenape Native American name, which is Nishwakamakwak, and that is interpreted into English as Two Clouds. So, Two Clouds, Muriyd, I will use both names interchangeably without thinking, so they're the same person I'm talking about. But so Two was my first child. I had him when I was 19 years old. I prayed and prayed and begged for him, and then Creator sent him to me. Um, So my family is Muslim. Um, I grew up, being born into the Nation of Islam. My dad was an FOI, my mom was an MGT, and so I just always was conscious of who I am ancestrally, um, genetically, and my mom just taught me from before I was even born. I'm sure that we are of the original people of this planet, and that, and I was always just taught to be for the people, to serve the people. So when I was pregnant with Muriyd, with two clouds, I always, always, always prayed, like all in the middle of the night and everything, for him to be a great leader and for him to become, a great revolutionary and to fight for the people. That was his very beginning. And so, we raised him. I was blessed to be able to homeschool him and his other siblings, my other children. I was able to homeschool him, and he was just always just super smart. People always told him like, "You're a genius," and he was great. He loved history. He loved reading. He loved languages. He was a polyglot, which meaning that he spoke many languages. Um, he was just just always awesome. And then when he certainly we had our struggles together because we grew up together, but when he would sort of when he became of that age that boys in particular get to when they want to be sort of out there in the world and finding themselves and finding what's out there, you know what I mean. I used to always reel him back in, and I would get on him. I tell him like, listen, you come from a great line of people. You have to carry this baton. You have things to do. Like, you're a prince. I used to always tell him, you're a prince. You can't be out here acting a fool. Like, you can't be out here dying for nothing. You give your life, it has to be for something. It can't be because you want to gang bang and do this and do that. And so, you know, that's how things went. And eventually, he found his purpose. All young people need a purpose so that we can move in this world appropriately. And I'm most grateful that he did that. So, Tu's father's people are Ramapo and Nape. As I've said, before, my people through me, he is of the Haudenosaunee diaspora, of the Ganeyegahaga people, the Mohawk people, and Taino. Um, and so from his dad, he's Ramapo and Nape. He did work with both our people, but predominantly the Ramapo because quite frankly, they need more help than the Mohawks did. But so how he came to go up there though, his father's his father's grandfather left the area, a few generations ago because there was just so much turmoil up there, and you know racism and all these kind of things. So they picked up, then they moved down to Newark, New Jersey, and East Orange, which they're right next to each other if you know the area. So they fled and moved down there, and actually, Chu's great granddad is he was very very light skinned, because the Ramapo people are very much mixed race. Some of them are extremely light, have light eyes and things of that nature, straighter hair. And then you have some who are dark toned. And it can be anywhere in there, that gamut. They have a great mixture of African, Native American, and European via the Dutch. And so, being, as I said, since two was a polyglot, he loved languages. And for years and years and years, I would tell him, like, contact your dad to get, your lineage from his side. Because there are a lot of things that we didn't know, like most indigenous people here in this nation, even ones who, live on the reservations. Um, there was a lot to the culture that we didn't know. However, I did bring him up within Native culture as much as I could. And so, we would do the powwows and all that kind of thing. Um, and contrary to popular belief, there are a lot of indigenous mixed race people where we are from in the Newark, East Orange, Irvington area, all around there. And so, I would get him involved some while he was coming up, and we traveled to other places, New York and stuff like that, to other powwows. And so, he finally, his father's his grandmother, his paternal grandmother, didn't want him going up there. So I guess maybe that's why she was just really, really dragging her feet, and his dad too. um and in fact, his grandmother and his great aunt would tell him, like, don't go up there. If you're gonna go up there, they're gonna kill you. Don't go up there. They literally told him this. And so, he ended up there because he wanted to learn the language, the Muncie language. And he, did his little research, like that was his thing. And he found out that they were having classes up there. And so that's how he initially went up to Mawa in the first place. So he started the language classes, and before too long, the tribal chief, was talking to him and everything, and he took two clouds down on the parcel of land that they had at the time, which is a small piece, is is approximately 13.9 acres of land, I believe, but you'll see anywhere from 13 and a half to 14. But suffice to say, it was approximately 14 acres of land he took him to, and that is the same land where he was found dead, and which is, it became the Split Rock Sweetwater Prayer Camp land, and the first piece of land that he secured for the tribe. But at the time, the tribal chief took him down there, showed him around and everything, and told him that was their religious land. And all around that piece of land are white folks. They live there, um, which is cool. I mean, white people gotta live somewhere too, right? But they live all around that land, and they're like multi-million-dollar homes and everything. And there is a polo club right across the way. And by across the way, I mean it's like a narrow sliver of like blacktop street. And so their land actually, it goes out, the Ramapo land goes out into that little street about maybe halfway. But it caused, a lot of issues. But at the time, the chief told Two Clouds that, these white people, like he knew the terminology to use. He told him that these white people are trying to take the land from us, and no one will help me. Nobody in the tribe will help me. Nobody wants to fight. Blah, blah, blah. This is our ancestral land, all this kind of thing. And, again, I will remind you how Two Clouds was raised. Um, Revolutionary spirited and everything. As I said, he if nothing else, he knew how to stand up and fight against wrongs. Um, that's just our way. We are a Muslim, and it is very much a part of the Islamic tradition that if you see a wrong, you have to speak out against it. You have to try to change it through action. If you can't change it through action, then you have to speak out against it. And if you can't speak out against it, then you have to hate it in your heart. But um, as the tradition goes, the tradition of the Prophet Muhammad, hating it in your heart is the worst, or is the least of faith. And so, it's like, nah, we got to do something. And so that was exactly what two concluded, like immediately, that they won't help you fight, but I will help you fight. And we're not going to allow them to take what is ours ancestrally. And so I remember him calling me and telling me that, and he's like, Ma, they're down here on me fighting and killing each other in North for land that don't even belong to us. This is my people's land. No way am I going to not help. And I was, of course, on board, like, tell me what you need. And that's how he ended up there. Two Clouds absolutely was successful in what he set out to accomplish, far more than any of us, expected. Not only did he single-handedly get that land secured for the Ramapo people, he, since, as I said, he was a great researcher, and again, with his upbringing, the way he was taught in a masajid, and also with my dad, that he had to delve in ancient texts and write it word for word. That's how they used to have you memorize things back in the day, word from word. My dad definitely, books, he had to not only read them, he had to write them. And so him delving into treaties and deeds, and going online and researching for hours upon hours upon hours, it was no, like, big deal to him. All it took was, perseverance and, you know, the ability to understand things. And he knew where to go for resources if there was something that he didn't understand. And so it was him who um, got all the information, and for them to be able to go into the court system and win back acres and acres of land. And with him going out into communities, museums, universities, going all over the place speaking, it it showed outsiders and people who were actually able to help. It made the Ramapo people seem the opposite of what they had seemed, because for decades, centuries, they were known as a derogatory term, which is Jackson Whites. And so nobody but nobody nobody cared about the Ramapo people. Like, nobody cared about them until Two Clouds came around and started doing all these things. And in fact, he wears the Split Rock Sweetwater Prayer Camp was originally set up, which again was right after my son came up there, but it was set up to stand in solidarity with what was happening up in with the DAPL pipeline, the Dakota Access Pipeline. My son was the one who stayed there on the land for 2 years. And, as I've said in other videos, through blizzards, he was hungry, he was cold, people were shooting at him, the neighbors would be, there's documentation online, court documentation. There's an affidavit, if you look up the affidavit of Two Clouds, I think it is. He says on there how people would be yelling, calling him nigger and everything, telling him to get off the mountain, throwing dog dung over the fence there and all kinds of stuff. But also let it be known that there were Ramapo who also were very angry for him being there. They were telling him that he was coming up there starting trouble, also telling him go back to where you came from and stuff like that. But he stuck it out. And as I've said many times before, it is because of my son, Two Clouds, that the Ramapo people have all the land that they have now. And people have still been giving them land even after my son's murder. So, what happened? The weekend of July 1st to July 3rd, 2022, my son Two Clouds took a trip with two of the three people who were around him all the time and who lied about their whereabouts and things of that nature when my son was killed. So one of them followed him up in a vehicle. The other one met him up there in the vehicle. The reason he went up there was because there's this guy who was also Lenape. If you go to the Beyond Clouds blog, Beyond Clouds being the organization that I started to continue my son's work. If you go to beyond-clouds.org/blog and scroll down till you get to the article, I think it is Who Murdered Muriyd Two Clouds Williams and What We Know So Far, something like that. Part 3. There's a guy that I talk about that I refer to as WD. S1 is the guy who murdered my son, who was a Ramapo. And he did not do it alone, like I've said from the beginning. S2 is the girl. And S3 is the third person who used to be with my son all the time. And he also lied, incidentally. So my son went up to New England. A girl from up there, from Shinnecock Reservation, well, not up there, but she said that she was going to set up a meeting with my son with some chiefs up there to help him get this guy WD under control. WD is also Lenape from Oklahoma, and he, along with others, have a vendetta against some other tribe, well, other Lenape tribes, who they insist are not really indigenous and that they are frauds and all this sort of thing. So he likes to start a lot of trouble. And he's had a bee in his bonnet over my son for quite a while. He called my son a black dog on Facebook around 2017, 2018. And, he just didn't dig my son because not only is he a dark-skinned native, but also he's very upset because my son was able to get all this land back. And the guy, WD, believes that the land does not belong to the Ramapo. It belongs to the Oklahoma Lenape, I suppose, even though they've done zero to get the land back. And we all know this government / white folks are not giving up any land without you being absolutely able to prove without a shadow of a doubt that it belongs to you. And they can't find a way to keep it stolen and away from you. So he didn't like that. And also, my son spoke the Muncie language fluently, and that, I don't know, what I've learned, the people that I keep encountering, I don't know where their common sense or logic lies, but one of his pieces of evidence that the Ramapo were not actually Lenape / Muncie was to say that no one spoke the Muncie language anymore. So therefore, there were no more Muncie people there. My son spoke Muncie fluently, one of the very few who could still. And so the guy WD, he was sitting on a panel or something down there around New Jersey or New York, I don't even recall anymore. But he was on a panel, again, saying this foolishness, that there are no Muncie there, no one even speaks the language. And my son got up on a mic and started speaking the fluent Muncie. Now, this guy has reached out to me since I wrote that article, and of everything that I accused him of in the article, the only thing he found fault with was, I never even spoke to your son, and you know your son or whatever, like foolishness. That's all he was concerned about, because as I said in the article, he really is envious of my son. And so, he just always caused trouble. It was a long time. So around June 19th-ish, somewhere around there, the guy WD popped up there on the land, snuck up there on the land, because he didn't tell anybody anything. He just came and took a selfie, posted it on Facebook or whatever, as if, he came up there to sort of punk everybody. And then he did a video down on the land where my son was found killed, dead, saying that he was taking over the land. Like foolishness. Like, people don't like being oppressed, but they love trying to emulate their oppressors. And so my son was really bothered by this. And the Ramapo people were very bothered about this. Just so happened that the Ramapo voted my son in as war chief just a few weeks or less, actually, before that. And so it was my son's duty to go up there and try to deal with this situation by talking to other indigenous chiefs and saying, listen, we need your help. This guy keeps doing stuff like this. He cannot just pop up on our land causing trouble, scaring the women, scaring the elders, pulling out a knife on the women and stuff like that. Big tough guy that he is, right? And so that's what happened. My son went up there, but lo and behold, when he drove all the way up there was no meeting to be had. And so, my son was very hurt by that because he really believed that the girl, the lady, had put it together and that something was going to be able to happen to get this guy to stop hounding and harassing them. So, if you are on his Instagram page, you all know that the rest of that time, he spent a little bit of time at the powwow up there that was happening. It happens every 4th of July weekend, 4th of July weekend. After he left there, he just went and hung out in the woods. That was his thing. For decades, he just loved to hang out in the woods. And then he went to the museum up there. He made a little video talking about the mastodons and stuff like that. And then he returned home back to Mawa Saturday the 2nd. So I had spoken to him a couple of times that day. We often spoke on the phone, so we had, multiple conversations throughout the week. Less than 24 hours before he was murdered, we spoke a couple of times. He told me some things that were going on and stuff like that. He was done dealing with the Ramapo because it was just too much. It was a lot. Like a lot. And at some point, when you see that people you're trying to help don't want to help get, help or any of that kind of stuff. And on top of that, constantly giving you grief. He was going through so much hell and turmoil with the tribal chief and the council for months and months and months because one of the tribal members stole, and I will make another video going into this in detail, but one of the tribal members, a relative of the tribal chief, stole thousands of dollars of cigarettes, and my son was being held responsible for it, which he did not think was fair. When the guy said he admitted that he stole it, but the chief nor the council would do anything to deal with it. And since Two Clouds was very, very much by the Constitution and what was right, it was a huge, it was just a huge mess for months upon months upon months. And he was extremely, rightfully so, he was extremely hurt, angry, and he felt disrespected that they, claimed to follow the Constitution and always talking about the ancestors and stuff, yet they disregard what the ancestors left behind and they disregard the Constitution. But also, the whole point of the smoke shop being there was because he was trying to help the tribe become financially self-sufficient, which was horrible from the very beginning. Nothing worked right at all. And thirdly, and maybe most importantly, he felt and believed that with everything that he had given to them and all the help he had given, just everything, they literally had virtually no assets until Two Clouds came there, that they should speak up for him. And they did not. They did not. And so all these things were going on, and so he was just like, that's it. So he was only in town until the next morning, which was Sunday, July 3rd, so that he could meet with his son, who was then just under 3 years old, and take his son to a kitty birthday party. He was super duper excited. He had been waiting and waiting, and he made it a point to be in town so he would not miss it. And that's why he was there Sunday the 3rd. And we have the due evidence to show that around late morning, right before noon, is the last time anyone heard from him. People have come up with all types of rumors and just outright lies pertaining to my son's death. And none of it has any validity. None of it has any proof whatsoever. And quite frankly, it doesn't even make sense. And I've said to people over and over again, I am the only one who has access to official records. I am the only one who has access to official pictures. I'm the only one who has gotten to speak to law enforcement and the medical examiners and such. And the medical examiner who did my son's autopsy told me outright that there was no evidence of an accident, there was no evidence of suicide, there was no evidence of a medical emergency. Yet, people insist on continuing with the rumors and the lies that my son was drunk and fell out the boat, which is not possible. Now, whether my son could have been a fall down drunk who woke up to corn liquor every morning and went to bed to vodka every night. He was not going to go and get his son while drunk. Not going to happen. And even if you want to say, let's just for the sake of argument say that he didn't really care about his son or himself and would have gotten behind the wheel with his son to possibly have each of them die in a horrible car accident. He was not going to go around his son's mother smelling like anything that remotely resembled even beer. His son's mother viciously, maliciously kept their son away from him and me and my family for 2 years until Tu finally put his foot down and he said, Umi, I don't care anymore. Whatever she needs me to say, whatever she needs me to do, I want to be back with my son. I need my son. You could say that his spirit knew something was going to happen or Creator was just giving him that time. I don't know. But what I do know is that there's no way that he would have gone and gotten drunk knowing he was going to see his son shortly. In fact, he even tried to go and see his son earlier. And he and the mother had been in contact the entire morning. And he asked if he could join them at the park. And she said, like, yeah, you can come, but just so you know, my family is here and I don't know if you're going to feel uncomfortable. So he said, no, that's okay, I'll just wait. And the reason why he would have felt uncomfortable is because of all the lies that she had been telling for 2 whole years. Women tend to do stuff like that sometimes, unfortunately. They get mad at an ex or something like that, and they start, starting all these lies and rumors and things, and, telling the family or people who love them. And so when she changes her mind and decides, like, oh, I want to be in his life again, nobody wants to hear that. Now everybody don't like him. And they don't want to hear, well, she obviously has no intention of telling people that she lied. She's continuing to allow these lies to go on, which is why I'm speaking. And, my son With everything that she was saying, he never once spoke out against her, said anything nasty or dirty against her. Not once. And he wouldn't allow me to handle things woman to woman, so to speak. And so now I'm doing so, because obviously his way is not conducive to a healthy mind state from when his son grows up. And these people, including one of the tribal chiefs, are allowing him to believe that his father abandoned him and didn't want to be bothered. It's just not true. And it's just not true about me nor my family. But again, I'll do a video going in more detail about that. So that's the whole reason he was there. There's no reason and no likelihood that he would get drunk before he was going to get his son. So no. Also, ironically enough, the guy who killed him is one of the people that they believe all these lies about. Believe all these lies from. So initially, he said that my son killed himself. That Two Clouds texted him saying, that he was so distressed about the tribe and stuff like that, and telling that guy that, I'm giving you control of the tribe. That is dumb, first of all. My son didn't have control over anyone but himself, and certainly he didn't have control over 5,000 plus people of a tribal nation to give control to. But if he did, it absolutely would not be that guy. He is a buffoon, and before my son was murdered, all he did was cause havoc. Everything anybody had to say about him was negative. He was always causing trouble wherever he went, wherever they went. He's very unintelligent, like truly. That's not shade, it's a fact. This just is dumb. And beyond that, my son was Muslim. He would never do anything like that. He didn't have mental health issues where, they would disregard his spiritual faith. And also, he would not do something like that to his children. And right when he got his son back and he was loving life, he was about to go back to school to finish up his degree, to start teaching and everything, there was no reason for him to do that. And I have had multiple people try to convince me that all the foolishness that he was going through with the tribe, that would have made him depressed enough to kill himself. They're stupid. They do not know my son, and that's ridiculous. So, X out the suicide idea. X out the drinking idea. People were saying that he couldn't swim. X that out. That's a lie. He was always on the water. People who can't swim don't take canoes out into the ocean. So that's just not so. What else did they say? There's just all kinds of things that have been going around, but for some reason they readily believe rumors, again, without any validity, without any proof of anything, yet they won't believe me, who actually has proof. And let me say also that someone also who pretended to, love my son and be an advocate for him and for me and such, outright lied, saying that they, whoever they are, the tribe somehow, got his autopsy report back, which stated that he had a heart attack and that he hadn't been murdered at all. That is a lie. I have the autopsy report, and that is an outright lie. And she went on to say that is a shame that I cannot deal with the fact that my son died from an accident, a medical emergency, a heart attack, and fell in the water and drowned. Again, it is not true. And then she also accused me of accusing the tribe of killing my son. I have not once ever accused the tribe, again, 5,000 plus people, of murdering my son. That is only gaslighting. For anyone who has heard that lie and believe that it makes some sort of sense for some reason, that would be stupid of me to think, and quite frankly, I'm not an idiot. So how would 5,000 plus people kill my son is beyond me. So these are things that were said, and it's just not true. But in saying that, while I do not believe that the whole tribe murdered my son, it is also a fact that they have done nothing in order to help us, my family and me, do anything about his murder. And so, a couple of things. I know people know who did it, but also lots of people didn't believe from day one that it was an accident. Tribal members said things on Facebook. Also, people were coming to me from like that Friday, the day that we buried my son, telling me that they thought that this guy and the other had something to do with my son's murder. And I have said over and over again to them exactly who it is, exactly why I know it was him and such, even though again I know it wasn't him alone, because he's not tough enough to take my son. My son was very versed in various forms of martial arts. He was an efficient boxer. My family, and black Muslims in particular, martial arts is just like part of the culture. And so we sent him for training since he was a little boy, and so he was efficient. This guy could not take him alone. No way, no how. And from the moment that I was told that my son passed away, I said that it was murder. It had to be more than one person, and had to be somebody who was close to him. Everyone who knew to knows how well he knew that land. It is a large enough section that you have to cross to get from the like the path when you enter. You can't just like run up on somebody. It's a long way. And he was a tracker, he was a hunter, he knew that land. There's no way someone was just going to jump on him, and there's no way that one person was going to be able to take him down. So with all those things, and I'm trying not to make this video too long, this film too long, but over the past 15 months, I've been very outspoken about who did it and everything, but no one has done anything besides taunt, gaslight, convince me that I don't know, they know, even though they have no information, haven't seen his body or anything. But my thing is, and has always been, that you don't have to just take my word for it. Get together, demand an investigation, because there's been no investigation. Demand that your chief does something. Demand that your council does something. Why on earth would the tribal chief, the clan chiefs, one who is his clan chief, the other clan chief that was talking smack about him, lying, spreading lies after his death, and then the other who made the killer his sub-chief, demand that they do something. That's not what they're doing. They're not doing or saying anything. If they can round up all these people to come up on the land when my son was there fighting for the land for them, then they can round people up now. If they can round up people for a parade to prance down the street in New York so that they can be seen and people know, like, we're here, then you can round up people to fight for my son. You know, again, before Two Clouds came there, nobody cared about the Ramapo people. Nobody cared. They believed they were monsters, inbred, savages, and now that people have been respecting them, you know, including them in inserts of cooking shows, and, you know, have them in newspaper after newspaper, have them on the news and all this kind of thing, and people have gained empathy for them. You're not going to fight for the person who made all that possible? It wasn't your chief. What had your chief done in the years that he's been there? And speaking of your chief, not only has he not said anything publicly, and in fact, let me say this. I meant to point this out before. Let me make it clear that no one calls me to tell me that my son had been found dead. So he was killed on July 3rd. On July 6th is when he was found. He was found late morning by a couple of electric company workers who decided to just walk across the land because it's very pretty there. And they found my son. No one called to tell me anything. And at least 5 people had my phone number. No one called to tell me anything. Finally, about 4:30-ish, later in the afternoon, my son's, my grandson's mother, who I spoke about before, she texted my daughter saying, have you heard from Muriyd? Because he was supposed to come and get Lalo Sunday and he didn't show up. And I immediately knew something was terribly wrong. He had not contacted me since Saturday, and it was our practice that he always let me know when he came back from traveling, and he also would send his location to me. He would take snapshots just in case he lost Wi-Fi, because he was oftentimes in very, very rural areas. And he didn't do any of that. He didn't do any of those things. And he also, if something was ever going to be wrong with his phone, he would message me, DM me, or message me through Facebook to tell me so that I wouldn't worry. He did none of that. So by Monday, I'm thinking something is not right here. You know, I reached out to him, and one of those automatic messages came up saying that, you know, the person you're trying to reach cannot be reached at this time, as if his phone was cut off. And I knew that wasn't possible. He had just paid his phone bill like 2 weeks before. So that was very odd to me. And then I called him a couple of times the next day and couldn't get him. So I went on Facebook and said, you know, on his page, it said, call your mother. And then he never calls me. So when she texted my daughter saying that, I immediately knew something was horribly, horribly wrong. And so then she sent a text soon after that saying that they pulled someone out of the river and they can't get in touch with my son. And so that's when I just panicked and I jumped right in the car to drive down to New Jersey. I live 3 hours away. And so as I was driving and stuff, because she had blocked me and my family like a couple of years before. And so because we were texting her saying we wanted to see the baby and like asking like, what's going on? You know what I mean? Why can't we see him? And she blocked us. And so I thought I was still blocked, but I called my friend frantic and he said to me like, just try it. And I did. And she answered the phone crying. And that's how I knew that my son had died. But again, no one had the decency to call me. I am my son's emergency contact. Nobody at the tribal office started to call me. It's just crazy. And so then the chief, he finally called me the next day, but at that point I had just finished going to the funeral home, doing my son's arrangements. And quite frankly, I was pissed off that he hadn't called me in all that time. Again, I knew that he and my son had been going through a lot of stuff. My son called, like I said, the day before and told me some things. And, but I figured normally if people are going through things and at one time they had a good relationship, most often it's like, you know what, it doesn't even matter anymore. This was stupid anyway. Let me call the mom. Let me see what's going on. Because this is the same guy who so many times had bigged me up when my son was fighting and winning all that land back for him. You know, he told me so many times, you know, you did such a great job. You raised such a great warrior. Like, you did such a wonderful job. And, you know, nobody will help me. He's the only one who came to help me and all this kind of stuff. And now you can't even reach out to tell me that one of your tribal members, my son, was found dead. So he called me and I didn't answer. I didn't feel like dealing with him. And so, I finally called him Monday because I was pissed off. And I said, you know what? I'm the type of person, I'm gonna put this on the table. Let's deal with this. And so I called him and, he gave me some little basic, you have my condolences and all this stuff. And I told him I was mad. Like, where were you? You didn't come. You didn't call me. You didn't come to the funeral. You didn't come to the ceremony. You didn't even send someone to speak for you at the ceremony, because he said he didn't come because he had COVID, even though there were a couple of other people there with COVID. And he did none of that. So, he's like, yeah, well, he sent his right-hand man over, SS, I'll say, that he sent him over to the police station to file for a report. That annoyed me too, because in the beginning days, even when I was driving down there that day, as I said, no one calls me. And I had to be the one to call, two sons' mother. But she called me back on a three-way with the medical examiner. Why? Like, they were constantly overstepping their bounds, like constantly. Like, you're not only are you not family, you're not his significant other. Y'all haven't been together for 4 years nearly. Well, at that point, about 3.5 years. And so, like, where do you get off doing this sort of thing, But at the time, of course, I was overwhelmed with everything. So I just let it go, deal with the situation at hand, as horrible as it was. But then he did the same thing. And he said that he was going to send me over the report. He never did. Finally, about a month or two, I was able to get my hands on what he did send. It was not to the police. And in fact, it was sent through email. and I'm going to show you so you can read for yourself. You know, my son was a beautiful person, beautiful human being. He was certainly flawed, just like all of us. Everybody was watching this. He was certainly flawed, but he loved the Creator. He did things which he thought and prayed would gain the Creator's love and that would please the Creator. When he did things that he thought or knew were wrong, he repented for it and he tried to do better. He actively worked to be better and to be a better human being. Beautiful inside and out. That's not just the mama talking. When he passed away, everybody and their daddy were writing all these great things that they learned from Two Clouds, that Two Clouds did for them, how wonderful a person he was, all the information, that they got about their ancestry and their family, and how he is the one who got them their tribal card, because it's extremely hard for them to give a tribal card, and they're always touting it as if it's, it's like controlling, they get mad at you, they're going to kick you out the tribe. That to me is dumb, because how do you kick somebody out of their lineage? That is some white oppressor colonizer type stuff to me, that you think giving somebody or taking away or not giving somebody a piece of paper to say they are who they are, that's ridiculous. But because of my son, so many people were able to get their tribal cards, because even if they couldn't prove their direct lineages to, grandparents and such, they could prove, my son could prove their link. And so since he had a card, then they got their card. There are people who have been living up there forever who still don't have tribal cards, or their children don't have tribal cards, or their grandchildren don't have tribal cards. So all these things that people were saying that my son Two Clouds did for them, in the beginning days, everywhere you look up the obituary online, the funeral home, you see it there too. But no one's speaking up for him. And people love to say, like, oh, it's probably because they're scared, because, everything that they've been through with the white people up there. So what? So what? If you're going to live scared, you're never going to get anything. If Two Clouds live scared, the Ramapo would have nothing. What he gave to them will be long lasting, beyond 7 generations from now. You think he wasn't scared? Out there getting shot at? Out there with the wolves and the coyotes at night? You don't think so? Not knowing what's going to happen to him while he sleeps? You don't think he was scared, but he did it anyway, scared, in order to help you all. But you don't care. The love that you claim to have is not love. It may be fetish, it may be tokenism, it is not love. What you love is to be seen. What you love is for white people to love you, or you think. That's what you want. That is your greatest hopes of all hopes. Now that they know you're not inbred, monstrous beings, you think that they love you. But the reality is, it behooves them to seem like they are in allyship with indigenous people. It's cool to be that now. It's cool to give back some land, or to do a fundraiser where they're not coming out of their own pocket, but do a fundraiser to buy back land and give it back to you. It makes them seem like they're doing something great, and it makes them feel good about themselves, feeling like they're actually doing something along the lines of reparations. That's what y'all want. You don't care. You don't care about MMIPs. You don't. Because the truth of the matter is, love always reveals itself in actions. Always. If you love a guy, you're going to do all kind of things, jump through hoops just so that he knows you love him. You love a woman, you're going to do the same old thing, do all kind of crazy stuff, get all beat up by somebody just so that she knows that you love her and that you care. You all don't want to do anything. What you want to do is talk. We're not talkers. We stand. We take actions. That's what we do. That's what we do. My son was beautiful. Beautiful. You girls know it. You guys know it. Wishing that you could be him. Girls wishing that you could be with him. And this is what they did to my son. Let that soak in. That is what happened to my son. And here's the thing. I know for a fact some of them knew that my son was down there. How do I know? Because as I said, they talk a lot. People who do crimes always go running off at the mouth, thinking that the people they told, because they need to get it off their conscience, I guess. Believing that the people that they told are not going to tell. But that's not how y'all rock. Y'all talk a lot, and I thank Creator for that. And so I know people were already saying how he looked, that he had an eye missing, that his ear was gone, and things of that nature, and other things about his body that I'm not going to reveal. So, no. I'm not letting y'all off easy. I'm not doing it. If you care about Two Clouds like you claim you do, if you care about indigenous people like you claim you do, stand your little silly asses up. Let's go to work. Because that's all I hear. That's all I hear are the people who really are trying to fight for Two Clouds the way he fought for you. Otherwise, keep your messages to yourself. Keep your texts trying to tell me what you know that happened with no proof. I got the proof again. I don't want any of that. I don't want little perfunctory, posts every now and again. Oh, I miss him so much. He was so fun. Oh, I love him so much. He used to laugh at my jokes. I don't want to see or hear any of that because you're all phony. Phony. Again, we are about doing. If you love someone, then you show it and you prove it through your actions. Don't come to me all in your feelings because I'm calling you out on your BS. I don't care. And regardless of what I look like, I'm a tough girl. Whatever you try to give to me will just roll off my back. But I'm going to keep coming, and I'm going to keep coming until I have the people who killed him and maliciously conspired against him under the prison floor, and anybody who played any role in this, who kept it quiet. I'm coming for all of you. All of you. That you can take to the bank.